Hello everybody, welcome to yet another weekly dev stream. I can't believe that we're here again this week, this month, this year. It is May, so it actually is a new month. But welcome everybody to the weekly dev stream. Solo Snut, yes, sad. I'm still alone. Jace has one more week off. And then maybe next week he'll be back. I don't know, we'll see. So how's everybody doing in the world? In the world, I mean in the real world, actually. Yeah, starting on Jay's time, which is a good point, Meza, because I believe that next week we're gonna move back to the old time, and I'm gonna probably mention that a couple of times in the stream. But yeah, so we start on 3 p.m. CEST. If you didn't know, right now it's 3 p.m. CEST. Next week we'll probably start an hour later again, go back to the old stream schedule. But so yeah, good times. I need that extra hour to prepare, because these streams always come, like doing these streams on this hour comes in fucking clutch. Okay, so yeah, it's looking forward to go back to that. But time zones have been kind of tricky, and I actually kind of should have moved back actually last week, and I forgot to mention that, and then I forgot to mention it this week. So I'm mentioning it now. Okay, next week we might go back to the old time. So if you're here right now, next week will be 1 hour later, okay? Everybody peachy? Okay, good. Glad we got that cleared up. Anyway, it works better for Australia viewing. I know, it's sad. Gonna have to stay up late AF for this shit. There's always the VOD, you know, but live is live, honestly. Like, I agree with you guys. Like, watching a VOD is not as exciting as watching live. Even though I'm not interacting with the streamer, I still think it's more fun to watch it live. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. Anyways, I'm just glad that you're here. Oh, jeez. It's not even me, it's someone else. You tagged. It's changed to the summertime? No, we changed to summertime a long time ago, but the reason why we switched time zone, the reason why we switched to this time was because Jace has been in Australia the last couple of months. And Jace is gonna come back from Australia next week, I think. I'm pretty sure. And he'll be back in Sweden again, so we can actually be in the same time zone. Is this a live VOD? Ooh, did I put out a bot to write that message just to make it seem like this is live? We will never know. So yeah. Welcome everybody to our weekly dev stream. These last couple of dev streams have been pretty packed in terms of things to talk about. I hope we have time for a proper Q&A this week, because there's just been so much information to convey. So I thought today we would take a little bit of a break, and it's gonna be a little bit disappointing for some people because we're still behind on some information, and we put out a teaser for the Spire Coast. We won't talk too much about the Spire Coast this week, but there will be a video this week about the Spire Coast. Again, more information, clarify a few things. We will talk a little bit about it today too, but you know, we are planning to go more in depth next week because we will have Hannah on, and Hannah will showcase, like, talk about everything Spire Coast related. So yes. So yeah, I guess I don't even know where to start. There's a lot of things I need to talk about today. A couple of things are related to Update 6. A couple of things are related to the game as it is right now. And I'm thinking it might be good to sort of get that out of the way before we dive into Update 6 related stuff. Because I don't know, it feels better to do it that way. So yeah, the latest info that I have to give you guys, or like the latest happening recently, was that a Experimental moved over to EA. So there was a big patch Friday. Was it Friday? I think it was Friday. Opening up the patch notes now. I think it was Friday. 28th. What was that? Was that Friday? Thursday. Okay. So it was a patch Thursday last week. And it broke Fix-It Network. I'm so sorry to hear that, Panacata. Bummer. But yeah, that was a huge patch, and essentially what it was moving the experimental branch over to the early access branch. We've been sort of doing a couple of small patches here and there on the experimental branch, mainly changing a little bit how vehicles works, fixing some of the issues people have been reporting regarding vehicles, but also some fixes for trains. There's a couple of changes to the dedicated servers, I believe, but for the most part, the patches, the things that we've done on experimental have been related to issues people are having with the game. So it's mostly a patch fix. There's one major thing that I want to address that is related feature-wise, and that is we have finally implemented a way for people to unlink their Epic Online Services account. So there's now a setting in the main options online. There's a setting called Reset Account Linking. It is now possible to unlink your account or do that so you can link your Epic account if you want to. It opens up a lot of possibilities. I probably won't talk too much about this because I think it's kind of settled for most people, like what this feature is and what it does. If you have linked an Epic account, then this doesn't change anything. This also only affects people on Steam, so people on Epic, this is not any news. But essentially, TLDR, what this feature does is, when you started up the game on Steam for the first time, you got like this prompt that said like, hey, do you want to link your Epic account? Which isn't something that you needed to do, but it's just if you had an Epic account and you wanted to be able to like see your Epic friends in the Steam version, we gave you that option essentially. And some folks have had like some issues with the game not going online, and the only way to fix that was to reset their account linking because something happened in the back end with the game. So up until this point, we've been doing that manually, and we're going to stop doing that manually because now you guys have that option to do it. So I'm going to update all the info on the facts and everything, but TLDR is essentially you are now able to do that unlinking yourself. Or if you have an Epic account that you haven't linked, you're also given that option now to reset that account linking so you can link an Epic account. So yeah, good times will be had by all. So that's that. So the next thing I want to talk about is vehicles on EA. I know that a lot of people have been saying that like the vehicles are bugged now on EA. But the thing is, they're not bugged. We just kind of changed how deadlocking works a little bit with vehicles, because here's the thing, right? There's like two sets of people using vehicles in a specific way, and maybe people coming in from like playing update 4 or even earlier coming in and thinking there's issue with the vehicles. The way they're designed right now is, I think we talked about this before as well, but we've introduced deadlocking to vehicles. So similar to trains, vehicles can get deadlocked now. So if you have like vehicle paths where if you have like a roundabout or something like that, and there can be a situation where vehicles might end up like giving way for each other, but there's no way to like for them to exit out of that, they will deadlock and they will like be in a state where essentially they're waiting for the other vehicle to take action to resolve them stopping. And this is intentional. This is because there's a lot of issues where when vehicles collide, they cause like unpredicting, what's the word? Like they can be very unpredictable situations when vehicles constantly collide with each other and stuff like that. And when we introduced like ghosting and that stuff in update 4, we made it very clear that like ghosting is supposed to be a very last, last attempt for vehicles to resolve their issues, right? So we want there to be an aspect of the game where you are designing the routes, and the routes do have to make sense. We don't want you to like cheat around like the system that exists just to make it like simpler for you. And some people like playing it that way, and it's very disappointing for them that you can't do that anymore. And that's fair criticism. But we think that it's better overall doing it this way, because there's a lot of people getting annoyed by vehicles like flying around the map and stuff like that, or people expect vehicles to take a certain amount of time to like deliver deliverables, and they're not meeting those like timeframes, which means that if they're having like people are having like power issues because their vehicles aren't performant and stuff like that. And it's really important for us that we make a system where vehicles can be as performant and like as reliable as possible. And that's been the goal since the very start, making vehicles more reliable. So that's the main reason why deadlocking is more like muted. By it'd be funny if I spent like this amount of time and then now I realized I'm muted. So that's the main reason why deadlocking it's a like bigger aspect for vehicles now, is because yeah, they cause a lot of issues for people, and we don't really see a way around that except like increasing how deadlock works. And we'll probably tweak this a bit more, but this is like the direction we're going with the vehicles. And if you agree or disagree, you know, the QA site is always open for you guys. But please keep it civil. The next thing I want to talk about is, and clarify, is that if you have a train station and you're supplying fuel to it, it will calculate like how much fuel is needed for a vehicle to make like a full route back to the fuel station. Some people believe that the routing is, if you have like one fuel station here and you have another, if you have one fuel station here and have another one here, a lot of people seem to believe that the fuel is calculated based on like how much time it takes for this vehicle to go from here to here, but it's actually calculating the entire route, I believe. I should have double checked this, but this is what they told me. So somebody can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but this is, I think, how it's intended to be. This can be confusing if you're not supplying enough fuel for the vehicles, then they will stop and wait for the fuel. So important to note that. Another thing important to note is that some people think that if a truck gets stuck on the way and it's fueled for like a certain route, right, and it gets stuck on something, people think that that will cost extra fuel, but that is not the case. If a truck has calculated that like I'll need this much fuel to go this route, then if a truck is automated, it will only use that much fuel, regardless of what happens during the route. So if the truck falls off a cliff and goes back, or like gets stuck on like a pillar and tries to move back and forth and shimmy and stuff like that, it won't use any extra fuel. And I've seen some people think that that's the case. And if you are make sure that you are supplying enough fuel to the truck station at all. I think it shouldn't even move. But if you are experiencing something like where the trucks run out of fuel and it seems like you're supplying enough, it might be a bug with the system itself, but it's not designed to be like that. So please, same thing there. Let us know in the QA side if you're running into that issue specifically. And we can and maybe supply your save file if you can reproduce it. You know, the more information you give us on this matter, the better. Yeah, the more information you supply us, the better, so we can look at it. But it's not intended to be like a thing where unsubstantial like circumstances are not taken into account with this. They should be. So if you're running into the issue where you have an automated vehicle, it's running out of fuel, it shouldn't. Essentially, that's the goal at least. So that's the design, and I'm addressing it because I think one thing that we've been kind of like bad at communicating when it comes to the vehicles is that we launched how vehicles worked in update 4. Yeah, 4. Wait. 5. Wait, then when did we change the vehicles? It was up 4 or 5. I can't remember. Whatever. We've been like going back and forth a little bit about how we implement the vehicles, and like going back and forth a little bit with community as well, given feedback we've gotten on vehicles. 4 or 5. We will never know. It's one of them. 5. I think we like, did we introduce ghosting in? No, it was 5, right? Whatever. This is irrelevant. Anyways, we introduced the vehicle change in one of the updates, and then as we were in experimental, we were changing a little bit how they worked, and also like went back and forth a little bit with some of the design decisions regarding the vehicles. So folks that had like started trying out vehicles at the start of experimental, and then people that started using them in early access, they got like kind of different experiences with how the vehicles worked. So that led a little bit to confusion. But then also, while in between updates, between update 5 and now, we've also made a couple of changes. And I think this adds a lot to the confusion as to like what their intended behavior is. Because people tune into like, you know, the announcements for the releases, and then they see like us talking about vehicles in a particular way. But then when they look at the game right now, they function a little bit differently. So that is, you know, on our part, and that's, you know, we suck at our job in explaining that stuff. We should probably be more clear about that. It might also be that maybe we shouldn't be tweaking those kind of gameplay features in between updates, because it might be confusing for folks. Because, I mean, we are pretty adamant with everything else in the game that we try not to change too much balancing wise and like gameplay elements, that when people build in a certain way, you know, it will change how they built. We try to keep like the experimental phase during updates for that time, you know, so that people that jump into early and experimental, they know what they're in for. So that is a little bit unfortunate. We are in early access, so, you know, it is the case that we are updating the game. And to a certain degree, you know, you guys also have to understand that we have to change the game if we feel like we need to. And sometimes it makes more sense to do these changes, you know, when they happen, because handling updates the way we've done up until now, it's tricky. But I just wanted to kind of clarify those things, at least when it comes to vehicle. I'll probably do more clarification on this particular topic when I understand a little bit better, because there's also a lot of times where, and this is kind of problematic in general when it comes to feedback, when people have played a long time and they have like more complex solutions to their setup, it's sometimes really hard to communicate like what the what is the actual issue that people are trying to communicate to us. And, you know, when we try to like figure out like what is the problem, we don't have like a clear enough vision of like the complex setup that is needed to actually run into the problem sometimes. Because like there's no way for us to be able to play the game to the same extent that you guys are, which falls back to like, if it's really important that the more information we can get from the QA posts when you guys are reporting stuff, the better. And I know that I sound like a broken record here, talking about like how important it is that QA posts are very clear, but it really is like super important, because it really is like an aspect of like you guys tell me something and then I go tell the development team something, and then they're like, oh, I can't, what do you mean? And they go back to me, I'm like, maybe, I don't know, like, and then it goes back and forth. So like, it's a lot better if there are QA posts regarding these issues, they're as clear as possible, they have as much information as possible, you know, uploading save files and, you know, giving very clear instructions as to like what is the way how to reproduce an issue. You know, those issues are really easy to look into. And those are more likely to get solved. So yeah, essentially. Explain the damn things as if they're 5 years old, exactly. So yeah, so that's a few things with the patch that came out last week. Is there anything else? Let me check here. EOS. There was an engine update. We were kind of curious if that would break mods. I guess some mods were broken due to like changes to, oh yeah, okay. Well, I'll finish this train of thought before I give you. I just like so happy I remember this. So we were kind of like, because we did an engine upgrade, a small engine upgrade, and we kind of worried that the engine upgrade would break mods, but it appears that most mods were okay. But, and here's the but, okay? Some folks have reported that there's like random issues with trains and train stations, and we have yet to be able to like reproduce these internally, and we believe that the cause of some of these issues are due to mods. So this is one of those cases where the game might seem to function like well, but there might be mods that are like breaking something and it's like super obvious. So there's a couple of things that we're looking into trains. I'm not saying that every train related issue that we just ran into that happened due to the patch are because of mods, because there are a few things that we are looking into. But a lot of cases that I've seen with the path thing specifically seems to have been a direct, like, people that have had mods installed, when they uninstalled every mod and tried it again, it worked. So and we don't know which mods are affecting it, so it's like it's a really tricky thing to troubleshoot, because in our testing we're not running into any issues. So it all falls back again to please folks, if you are reporting these issues with trains, please give us as much detailed information as possible. Are you using mods? How is your train set up? Even give us your save file so we can try it ourselves, because sometimes it's really confusing to us when like people are like, oh, like the paths are broken, and we're like, are they? Like, they work for us, and like, you know, there's so much we can do when we only have so much time to test things. So yes. So that was the main thing I wanted to bring up here, that there have been a lot of issues with the game where mods seem to be the culprit, and we've not been able to identify it. But we're still looking into. It's not like we ignore it just because. It's not like as soon as we hear mods are related, we're like, drop it. We are investigating some things, but the majority of folks that I've talked to have had the main issue has been because of mods. So like, if anything, make it like a protocol if you're running into issues with the game and you have mods installed, to like try out before you like reach out to us, try and uninstalling mods and see if you're still getting the same issue. It's kind of annoying too, because sometimes just saving the game with a mod installed and loading that save file could be enough to cause issues with the game. And I know that the mod creators don't want to like add extra work to us when they create mods. So like the more you guys can help out and like figuring out what's the problem, better. Because sometimes there's been cases where if you use a mod, save the game, uninstall the mod, load the game, there's still an issue. But if you were to play the game vanilla the same way, it wouldn't be an issue. So like sometimes that's happened too. And those take like so much time to like figure out why that is. And then it ends up being just like, we can't do anything about that. And we have to reach out to the mod creators. Oh boy. So yeah, that's the patch that we launched last week. Again, the QA side, if you're having any issues, please report on the QA side. There's been I've seen a lot of people talk about different things, but when we search on the QA side, we don't see any posts about it. So like, that gives us some information that there's some issue, but like, it's really hard for us to investigate it unless there's an actual post on the QA side. So I urge you all to check out the QA side if you haven't already. Okay. Cool. Let's see. Oh yeah, I guess one more thing to mention too. This isn't really interesting maybe to you guys, but it's interesting to us, I guess. But up until now, we haven't been able to like collect crash reports on the dedicated servers. You know, when you crash the game in single player, which happens all the time, right? You get this like crash reporter, and when you click like, yes, I want to send in a crash, like that, we get that automatically. That's not been possible to do on dedicated servers until this patch. I believe there's like a setting if you want to allow, like, you still won't, the game still won't send any information out unless you approve of sending that data. You know, it's the same thing with the gameplay derivatives and stuff like that. So there's a setting somewhere on the dedicated server. I believe you can opt out if you don't want to send the crash reports. But for the most part, these are anonymized, so I don't think there actually is like any private, like personal information regardless. But just so you guys know, like that option is also in there. Maybe that's fun information or not. I don't know. But it's really good for us because dedicated servers can crash because of dedicated server related reasons, not because of the game. And it's been a struggle to like kind of figure out those crashes because we don't get any crash reports on dedicated servers. We've had to like manually get those crash reports. So good times will be had by all. So yes, that's the patch. Oh boy. That took longer to talk about than I thought.